Welcome to the Awards Heaven podcast. I'm Rob LeCouria.
I'm Charlie Bright.
I'm Tony Ruiz.
And I'm Chris Sang.
And on today's show, we will be discussing the Grammys, latest reactions on films vying for attention this Oscar season. We'll do a deep dive into the Best Supporting Actor race. We'll talk about what we're watching, and we will probably have to revisit the Golden Globes podcast category. And later in the show, I want to do a mini tribute to 40 years of the Golden Girls and reveal our latest top fives. This week, it's movies that you love that are objectively bad. Right, fellas, let's talk about the Grammys. We didn't talk about it last week. They had just dropped. And you'll recall a few weeks ago, I planted my flag into the ground and said, if Lady Gaga does not get nominated across the board and ultimately win, I will be really pissed off. So far, so good. She got nominated in Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and a few other nominations in the other categories. Good for her. She's never won one of the big general field categories, which is insane. And I think it's time. I think it's really time for her to take some of these out. I think she should take out all three. I don't have too much confidence because I can see over at Gold Derby where people are predicting this stuff. And by the way, everybody go over there and make your predictions because that's the place to do it. Kendrick Lamar, of course, he's beloved in the industry, isn't he, Charles? I think Lady Gaga can't be too complacent here.
I don't think so either, but it's so tough because what you have to remember with when they expanded the voting field, unlike what the Oscars did with Best Picture, they still rely on the same voting system. So it's still you check mark one and whoever has a plurality of votes wins. So theoretically, someone could win Album of the Year with like 15% of the vote. So, I mean, I don't know if that helps Lady Gaga or hurts her. I think she's definitely in the top tier to be thought of as a winner. Her, Kendrick, Bad Bunny, and Sabrina Carpenter, I think, are the ones in there. I don't know who I would think is more out front than the other. And for me, if it's anyone other than those four, I'd be very surprised. At least for Album of the Year. I think maybe Lady Gaga maybe she has a slight edge in Record of the Year.
Well, let's hope so. Tony, what do you think?
Well, we all know that I'm the senior citizen here whose taste in music ranges from the 1940s to about the 1970s.
What?
That said,
what? What?
Yeah, exactly.
You old
like
bastard.
who are these?
This used to be all orange groves, far as the eye can see.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. I think Gaga is in a good position. She got all the nominations in the top categories that she needed to. Record of the Year is always an interesting category for me because it's like the track that has oftentimes like the most visibility that's just become part of the zeitgeist. Obviously, last year that was Kendrick Lamar with Not Like Us. I could definitely see Abracadabra winning. I could also see Anxiety by Doechii winning Record
Great
of the
song.
Year. I do think that I think Album of the Year is far more competitive. I could see Gaga or Kendrick. I could see Bad Bunny doing it. I could see Sabrina Carpenter doing it. Another part of my old man shakes his fist at clouds sort of viewpoint of the world is when we start getting into the Song of the Year, where certain songs have like 12 writers. I'm like, what are we doing here? But the Grammys are interesting. I actually think the one to look at in Song of the Year is Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. I was actually really surprised to see that get in for Song of the Year, but not Record of the Year, considering what domination it's had on the chart. So, it's going to be really interesting to see where the Grammys go. To me, they're the hardest to predict sometimes.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll make this quick because if you guys think Tony's an old man, I haven't even heard of half these nominees. So, but I do to piggyback off of Charlie, like in terms of the voting system, I remember the biggest thing I remember from last year is every time an award was presented, the presenter always prefaced it with said, as selected by the 13,000 members of the Recording Academy, blah, blah, blah. So this new we're still in like the an untested territory of like, you know, what would happen with this expanded voting system. Last year it proved to be like, you know, kind of like similar to how the Emmys reward people, with Beyonce winning album of the year, Kendrick finally winning those top three categories, both of them. And I think that could be the case with Lady Gaga, um, as if she like captures like that cultural zeitgeist. And I do, yeah. And also off of Tony's point, Golden. What I'm already I'm already sick of hearing that song. It's a good song, but I've heard it like it's like Frozen from Let It. It's like
Yeah.
Let It Go from Frozen, where you hear it 100 times and you're like, okay, I get it, and I'm already
Yeah.
getting mentally prepared to hear it another 100 times until Oscar night. So yeah.
That's right. And apparently, parents with younger kids are hearing Golden constantly, even more than what we would normally hear it. I remember when my kids were little, it was all about Frozen, and that's all I heard for maybe 3 years. And I loved it, but it did get a little old. And so I
And
get it. I totally get
what
it.
was so what was so interesting about that Frozen year is that that was the same year that Happy by Pharrell Williams was nominated for original song. So you had two of the biggest earworms
Yeah.
of the decade in that same year in that category.
Wow, that is a very good point. Well, that is such a classic song too. The song that I think is a dark horse before we move off the Grammys is probably actually APT or Apata, however you want to say it, by Rose and Rose, or is it Rose? I think it's Rose and Bruno Mars. That just shows how old I am too. I love that song, actually. And by the way, did you know Rose is Australian? So I thought that was actually quite interesting too. And also now becoming quite an amazing solo K-pop artist. So look, the Grammys did good. I'm happy. I, ultimately, I don't really care who wins. It's not the end of the world. I'd love to see for perhaps maybe in Best New Artist, someone like Cat's Eye or Addison Rae or Loli Young is probably who I would vote for. Um, but yeah, I just want to see Lady Gaga get her due. I just think it's time. I think she's been such an incredible, influential artist over however many years, and she's written so many hits. If you do a playlist of her hits, even her deep cuts, it's 40, 50 songs deep. And I think it's time. That's all. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to put that out there in the universe. Let's manifest it. Good for her. Good for all the nominees. The Grammys sometimes do really good, and I think this year they did. So let's move on to some of the films that are really making an impact in the last week or so in this constantly evolving, moving feast of an Oscar season. I know some of you have seen some of the films that have just come out or have been previewed for media. I will say I saw Hedda the other day, and I was really impressed. Nia DaCosta is such an interesting younger filmmaker. I really loved her Candyman. And this one, it stars Tessa Thompson as Hedda Gabler. It's a completely reimagined adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's 1891 play. And this time it's a woman of color and it's a queer woman. And she has this fiery uh, desire, mutual desire with the character played by Nina Hoss. And I was lucky enough to interview the composer Hilda Guðnadóttir, who we all remember her from winning the Academy Award for her score for Joker a few years ago now. It's a really good movie. I really think it's a really good movie, and I really think that it actually has some legs in this Oscar season to maybe break through in a few categories. It could be score, it could be sound, because it's a really music heavy film. It could be production design. It's beautiful to look at. And of course, Tessa Thompson, she really knocks this out. This is her best performance I've ever seen. Have any of you guys have any thoughts on Hedda? Because I know that it's actually starting to make some inroads in the last couple of weeks.
I haven't seen it yet. I just got the screener for it. So it's on my list. It's on my list to get to once once I go on Thanksgiving break from work, and I have 5 minutes. But I do agree that from some of the rumblings that I'm hearing is that Tessa Thompson is just unreal, and I think it's way past time for her to get some of the kind of the acclaim that I think she deserves. I especially think she deserved to be Oscar nominated for Passing. Um, but
I
I,
know. I
I,
can't
I,
believe she wasn't nominated for that.
yeah, that was a strange year. Um, but yeah,
Ruth
I'm really
Negga
looking
wasn't
forward
even
to
on.
this. Oh, that's right. Ruth Negga was the other part of that movie. I forgot about
So did the
Yeah.
Oscar voters.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So did the Oscar voters. Any further thoughts on Hedda before we move on? Because we have a lot to cover today.
I
Um,
was supposed to see it. I was supposed to see it at Middleburg, but I ended up switching that with Train Dreams. So I missed it at Middleburg, and so I'm probably going to watch it this weekend.
It's available on
Excellent.
Prime Video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is available now on Prime, which is great. So everyone go out and have a look at it because it's all or stream it on your TV because it's really good. It's very, very well done. Um, Frankenstein just dropped on Netflix last week. A lot of us had seen it already. There's a lot to say about Frankenstein. I actually am surprised at how polarizing has the reaction to this film has been because Guillermo del Toro makes beautiful movies. I love everything he does. I'm a huge fan of Jacob Elordi, another Australian. And this time, Jacob Elordi is not going to suffer from the Tom O'Neill copyrighted slap the stud syndrome. Just a quick sidebar. If you don't know what that means, if you haven't been following Tom O'Neill over the last 30 years, where have you been? But he has always, and by the way, he is the guru. He's everything in awards world and always will be. He always said that if you're a really good looking younger man, you will always struggle with awards because of jealousy or envy, or they just want to slap the stud. And a lot of people scoff at that idea and think that's dumb. I don't. I think it's really, really spot on. And someone like Jacob Elordi, who has been knocking it out of the park for years and years on projects like Euphoria, is finally getting recognition as the monster. And he is incredible. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I have two things. I have a lot of things to say about this because this could be very much a case of I'm too close to the source material because I taught the novel of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein for years.
Oh, yeah.
And I kept hearing prior to this film being released how faithful this adaptation was, and it isn't. I'm sorry, it is not. There are so many deviations from the plot. Uh, Choices that I don't think make it a better story. Um, I had some real problems. I think the movie is tonally all over the place. I think Oscar Isaac, as much as I love Oscar Isaac as an actor, I think his performance is on another planet of everybody else. They don't seem to occupy the same space as some of the other characters. Mia Goth as Elizabeth, I think, is completely wasted. Uh, a character that had way more complexity in the book is, where Oscar Isaac is at 12 for pretty much the entire movie. Uh, Mia Goth is her character is. I'm trying to find a pulse. Maybe has less life than the monster. It is as any Guillermo del Toro film is. It is absolutely gorgeous to look at, but at the same token, I was shocked by how shoddy I thought some of the visual effects were, particularly the wolves. There's a whole middle section of wolves, again, something that is not in the novel, that they spend way too much time on. And I was watching it with my father, actually, and we were just going, is it just me, or are those the most CG wolves that you could ever possibly imagine? And it was bad. Frankenstein's laboratory is basically this really kind of more gothic looking version of the same clock tower from Wicked. Um, and I just found that distracting. But all of that said, I think I broke Chris. Um, um, That being said, there are some absolute moments of beauty, and every single one of them is connected to Jacob Elordi. He is the MVP of this movie without question. He deserves a supporting actor nomination. I was so fascinated to see what he did with that character, making that character, really matching the gravitas that the character has in the novel and giving it a real heart. Um, Particularly, I'd say in the last third, where he really finds his voice both literally and figuratively. Um, so I think Elordi is wonderful. I wish I liked the rest of the film as much.
Okay. Any other comments on Frankenstein before we move on, guys?
I was very in the middle about it, which is so weird because I keep on hearing about movies this year that are very polarizing, and I'm very much in the middle on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe I've just numbed myself too much over the years, but I liked it. I do think there was a lot that I was going that that should have felt artistic, but felt very CGI, and it just kind of stuck out to me. Um, I thought Oscar Isaac was good. I don't think he knows how to give a bad performance, personally. Um, I thought Jacob Elordi was the MVP, and there Christoph Waltz is doing what Christoph Waltz does. That's what you hire him for, and he fulfills it beautifully. And yeah, I'm completely on the same page about Mia Goth. She had the potential to be so interesting and to be so captivating, and the potential was there in Mia Goth. It just wasn't used in the movie, and I hate when that happens. And that just made me feel really because I think she's a fantastically talented actress. Um, Again, it has some gorgeous elements to it. And when it comes to Oscars, I can see it getting into some of the usual things that we would expect of a Guillermo del Toro movie. Production design, costumes, hairstyling, and makeup. Um, it's kind of weird because I found myself kind of feeling the same way about Nightmare Alley a couple of years ago, which I felt very weird about because I loved The Shape of Water so much. I was even surprised at how much I enjoyed that movie and how much I just absolutely fell in love with it. But this one just wasn't hitting for me the same way. But it's not bad. It's not bad by any stretch. I just also
Wow.
felt like it was trying too hard also at certain points. I can't really give you any more specifics about that. I was actually texting with Dan Bayer about this. I was saying like it felt like it's trying too hard. And he said, well, with what? I said, I kind of feel like with everything.
You know, I felt very meh about Shape of Water and Nightmare Alley. It's interesting that you've said that. It's really, really perceptive because sometimes that is the issue that I sometimes have with Del Toro's films, as beautiful as they are, and because you can see the effort. And I think like what you're saying, Charlie, it could be like this. It's really earnest, like they're really earnestly trying to give you something new and beautiful and different. And sometimes it takes you out of the story. I get it. I totally understand what you're saying. It's really hard to pinpoint. Chris, final thoughts on Frankenstein?
I agree with everything that was said, specifically Tony's wicked comment. Uh, but I, it's weird because I can also couple this with like Hedda. Like I, when a film is adapted from a book or play, it doesn't have to like be faithful to it or it's good that it has like a different perspective or it takes a certain part of the story to say something like really unique about something personal that connects with most people. That's what adaptation should be used for. But in terms of like Frankenstein, which is like probably one of the universal tales about the human condition, the way it handles its characters, it usually like it sacrifices a lot of the complexity of these characters, and that results in like the message becoming a bit too like obvious and simplistic, and add that with just the typical Guillermo del Toro sentiment with it, it kind of like doesn't mix well. I was really looking forward to see this because it's been winning a lot of like film festival audience prizes, and it's still people really do like it. And but yeah, with all this all these mixed reviews coming out, it makes me wonder. Like, I still have no idea what is Netflix's priority in this. And because I think transitioning to awards, Jacob Elordi's awards chances probably really stem a lot from with Frankenstein can make Best Picture. And there's also really quick, just a little side note of Mia Goth. Not only does she play Lady Elizabeth, who she also plays Victor's mother, which when you look at the relationship between those two characters, it's kind of weird, kind of weird that they're being played by the same actress. But
Yeah,
yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen with this, so I'm excited to see.
that's very interesting and very perceptive. I think Netflix has got a few really good chances here, and I see a lot of people are predicting Frankenstein to make it into Best Picture. I'm on that train. I think so. I have a feeling Train Dreams could be the one that will really break through, but I want to talk about more about that next week. I just received the screener for that, and I'm looking forward to watching it tomorrow. Um, I want to pivot now to Best Supporting Actor. We go through a category every week, and this one is difficult. So hopefully you can all see this on your screen. I have some thoughts that I want to raise with you guys, and I want to hear what you think about this as well. Number one, as much as I love One Battle After Another, to me, that is probably the best film I've seen so far this year. It's a very close one with, spoiler alert for everyone who probably doesn't already know, Predator Badlands, which I'm completely and utterly 100% obsessed with now. Sean Penn is a no-brainer for me. My question is about Benicio del Toro, because as much as I love him and I think he's an awesome actor and he's really, really good in this movie, I don't know, like, is he really, is this really enough of a performance to take up one of these slots in a super competitive category? Do any of you agree
I
with me, or do
absolutely
you
think
think
so.
I'm high?
I absolutely
I
think so. I
I'm right.
loved his performance. On a personal level, I actually loved it more than Sean Penn's performance.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's just such a great quintessential supporting character, and he just brings all the right attitude and everything to it. To a point, I was texting someone a couple of weeks ago saying that I was actually where I was saying, like, I know everybody's talking about Sean Penn, but I feel like Benicio's not getting the amount of due that he deserves for this performance. Um, just as I love a character that is always like calm, cool, collected, and always like two steps ahead of everybody else, but hides it very well, and is very much, but is also very chill about the whole thing. So
Sorry.
I think
Go.
I think that I think Benicio. I was worried for a moment, but it actually seems like there are other performances that we thought would be more prominent in this category. That we'll probably talk about some of those, like Adam Sandler and Jay Kelly and Jeremy Strong in the Springsteen movie, that seem like they've lost quite a bit of momentum. And so Benicio seems like someone who, and he's been someone who has been gotten in unexpectedly. Let's not forget, I guess it was 22 years ago. I don't know many people were predicting him to get in for 21 grams, and he still got in for that.
Yeah, he's really beloved. Tony, what are your thoughts so far?
I'm going to actually go even further. I can actually see a scenario where Benicio del Toro is the one nominated and Sean Penn is not.
Really?
I was actually, I floated that exact same
That's a
possibility a couple of weeks
that's a
ago. I
big
was
call.
actually thinking that could be a weird thing that happens. Yeah.
That's a
Because so many places we've seen this same kind of discussion happen. I've seen a lot of things said on social media, online, in the blogosphere, that everybody says, yeah, Sean Penn's getting nominated, but you could, I mean, come on, when Benicio del Toro, that's like, oh my God, everybody loses their mind over that. And I could actually see a scenario where that's the nomination that happens. I do think that when certain films get that kind of momentum, particularly if it's a Best Picture frontrunner, which um, it is not. It's almost to be expected that two nominations in the same category can happen. Stephanie Shu and Jamie Lee Curtis. Vera Farmiga and Anna Kendrick in Up in the Air. Um, those things can happen. So I'm I think this is a pretty safe. I think Benicio del Toro is a pretty safe bet right now. I can see critics groups really building that momentum and picking him out. So yeah, I it would not shock me at all. But don't sleep on the fact that there's a chance that Sean Penn could get dropped and Benicio could be the one to benefit from it.
Big call. If that happens, I will definitely be giving you the credit, and I'll give Charles a little bit of it too. Chris, any thoughts on Benicio before we move on?
I think he's pretty safe. I think after those top three, which I think are practically locks, I'm
Yeah.
not going to go as far as to say he'll get in over Sean Penn, but I think there's a very strong scenario he's going to get in for both. That they'll get him for both, especially if one battle after another is going to win Best Picture, Director, Screenplay, maybe a couple acting awards. Um, because after those three, the category is like pretty empty, or in terms of like the uncertainty. Adam Sandler, Jacob Elordi, their nominations again depend on how strong their film is. Jeremy
Mm.
Strong, he's probably not going to happen because of the massive underperformance of Springsteen. Jonathan Bailey, I think he's too low because he got in at SAG last year, and what's stopping him from getting in this year? So, and that could be another stepping stone for that movie, especially
Yeah,
with Arrivo and Grande particularly looking to win their respective categories as well.
you're right. I think Jonathan Bailey is a real dark horse here. I really do. And Paul Mescal and Stellan Skarsgård and Sean Penn, notwithstanding Tony's theory, which could happen, I think that those three are pretty safe. I really want to see Stellan Skarsgård get this nomination because I love the actor. I really was. I'm still getting over the fact that he wasn't nominated at the Emmys for Andor, and I want him nominated. So hopefully that will eventuate. My question at the moment, because I haven't seen Jay Kelly yet, I think I'm seeing it next week, is Adam Sandler. I just don't buy that yet because he couldn't get in for Uncut Gems, which he should have. He was fantastic in that. Now, of course, there's other reasons. Maybe it was too competitive of a category, or no one saw the film, or no one got the film. This one's more of a mainstream Netflix film, so maybe he's got a better shot. But I don't know, Charles, do you think there's still going to be a bias against someone as amazing as Adam Sandler is? Is he still taken seriously enough?
Honestly, the thing about this, so I have seen Jay Kelly. I have seen Jay Kelly, and Sandler is very good in it. Um, I think there is the if Sandler doesn't make it in, I don't think it would I actually would not say that the first reason is because of bias against him before, what he's made his career on over the past, what, I guess 30 years, I guess. Yeah, 30 years. Um, I just think it's just that I think it's probably going to be because Jay Kelly is not going to be a big performer. I think, Clooney's losing traction in the lead actor category. It's losing traction in picture, where I think like the only nomination that I kind of feel confident of is possibly getting in an original screenplay. So I think that's the thing that's actually hurting Adam Sandler more than a bias against him, because he's proven time and time again, not just with Uncut Gems, but also what was the movie he got that surprise SAG nomination for? Uh,
Oh,
Basketball
where he's
movie.
the basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah, I think it's called Hustle. Is it called Hustle?
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Or something?
you were up.
Yeah, I
I
mean, so
completely
he's
forgot about that.
more than proven himself to be someone who deserves to be in the conversation for his talent. But that's what I think it's going to be the weakness of Jay Kelly, honestly. But one other contender who we should bring up is Delroy Lindo, who I liked in Sinners. I feel like I wish that he had more to do in Sinners. But I am still bitter from, I guess, what was it, 4 years ago or 5 years ago when he missed out on a nomination for Five Bloods, despite winning New
How
York
did that
Film
happen?
Critics, Los Angeles Film Critics. He was incredible in that movie, and
That's a snub.
and talk about someone who has an IOU. I think he's right up there with Stellan Skarsgård.
Mate, I remember when The Five Bloods came out, we all saw it. I was on film
Because there was
Twitter. No,
nothing else to watch, because it was nothing else to watch because it was COVID.
because it was COVID, and people were beside themselves saying, "This is it. Delroy Lindo's got this in the bag. This is a performance for the ages." And the Oscars just ignored it. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So I want to see him nominated just for that alone, the fact that he was left out. I think he's awesome in Sinners. The problem for me is that, as you can see this list, there are three real contenders here. Miles Caton is so heartbreaking in this movie, and then Jack O'Connell is amazing. He's so good. He's terrifying and also magnetic, and I would love to see all three of those guys nominated from Sinners. I really would. That's not going to happen. There's no way. But this is a really tough category. I am, and then you've got Josh O'Connor in Wake Up Dead Man, but most likely the most, I guess, acclaimed performance in that film. We have a real race in our hands in this category. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it would be, first of all, people are always putting Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor together for obvious reasons. Hello, Be Still My Heart. And but also, I would say, speaking of Be Still My Heart, Andrew Scott was Gotham nominated for Blue Moon, and Ethan Hawke is a real contender in Best Actor. And another Be Still My Heart, Alexander Skarsgård for Pillion, is also Gotham nominated. And how fabulous would it be? I don't think the Oscars are brave enough to take a performance in a queer BDSM film. But if they did,
or as I call it, Saturday.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to say that.
Well, you know, when I went in, what was the last movie that I saw? It was when I was at the movies a couple weeks ago. The most incredible series of trailers played, including both for Pillion and Wicked for Good, played in the same. Just going, what are they trying to tell me here?
Yeah, I know. Final thoughts.
We got the
Chris.
gay. We've got the gays. We've got the horn dogs, and we have the gay horn dogs.
You can't lose.
And the bikers.
Don't forget the bikers. Final thoughts, Chris, before we move on.
Just quickly about Jay Kelly. I know it's not getting a lot of good critic reviews. Not even getting, according, I don't have Letterboxd, but apparently it's not even getting good Letterboxd audience reviews either. But there are a lot of people, particularly in the industry, that really like it, and it's classic Hollywood bait. George Clooney may not be strong enough to get into Best Actor, but Adam Sandler, it can be strong enough if it finds some traction at some of these guilds. So it's just something to look out for. After those top three and maybe Benicio del Toro, it could be anybody that takes those final slots.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Let's move on. So let's talk about what we're watching now. There's three shows that I want to briefly talk about if we can. We all watch a lot of TV because that's, we're passionate about it. We talk about it, its awards potentials and stuff. But when you happen upon a TV show that is not only really compelling and you love it, you love the characters, you think it's really cool, you want to binge it all, but it's also one that kind of gives you that little feeling in here, like it's so special that you just cannot wait to get back into that world and you're thinking about it a lot. For me right now, that's Pluribus. It's just dropped on Apple TV last week, the first two episodes. I think the third one's out today or tomorrow, whenever it may be. I've seen up to episode 4, and I am all in. I just think this show is amazing. It's just like peak Vince Gilligan. Ray Seahorn is just get that Emmy out to her immediately. It's beautifully written, beautifully made. The story is so original. It's what you think it might be, and then it takes really sharp turns into something else. It's really complicated and interesting, and I cannot rave enough about it, guys. Really. Have any of you had a chance to check out Pluribus yet?
I actually was watching the pilot, and I had to stop right in the middle of it. for recording this. So I can assure you, once we're done here, I'm going right back and finishing that pilot. I'm very intrigued so far. I'm at the part where everybody wakes up at the hospital right now, so we're
Oh,
going to see. So we're going to see where this goes. But Rhea Seehorn is such a talent, and I'm at least glad that she got in those last two seasons of Better Call Saul at the Emmys. There were years where she should have been a clear front runner to win. And I love that she's getting a chance to carry a series now, and I'm very eager to see what that's going to look like.
Chris, have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I've seen the first 3 episodes.
What did you think?
I'm a huge Vince Gilligan fan. I'm one of those people that think Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad
Yes.
because of its characterization and its writing. Um, and this one, as a huge fan of The Leftovers, this is just Vince Gilligan's The Leftovers mixed with like maybe The Last of Us, and I know everyone's comparing it to Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Walking Dead. Um, and I think it's easily his strongest pilot of the three. And usually with Vince Gilligan shows, their first seasons are they really it really takes its time to like get to know the characters, build up the story, the exposition, the narrative, the backstories, and it's really all handled. It does that without like without making you feel bored or on the edge of your seat, and that's all because commanded by Ray Seahorn's performance and also Carolina Wydra, who does a fantastic job as I don't know what you call that the people in
Yeah.
the joining or the happy place, but the way she carries her emotion, it carries those emotions, and she has more subtlety to her compared with Seahorn's like range of emotions. It's a perfect balance between those two.
Yeah. And Tony?
I am literally ignoring everything you guys are saying because I am going to wait until this show has has dropped its
I hear
entire
you.
first season, and then I'm going to binge it. Um, I've
It's a good
avoided
call.
I've avoided trailers, I've avoided reviews, I've avoided it. I've avoided it all, simply
The
because I
Blade.
want to go into it as fresh and I just want to go on the ride and I don't want to stop.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just can't.
I do that with a lot of shows actually, sometimes because I hate the wait. It's horrifying. But anyway, we should leave it there because I really look forward to maybe doing a deep dive once it's all aired or streamed, because I think this show is really special, and I haven't felt this way about a show probably since Severance came out. Yeah, I just think it's really cool. So the other two shows are The Girlfriend. That's the first one. I love this is a battle between Robin Wright and Olivia Cook. They're battling over, so Robin Wright's son, Olivia Cook's love interest, played by Laurie Davidson. He's an English actor. That casting is so perfect because this actor needed to be someone who you can kind of root for and see why these two women are tearing at each other, almost literally, to be in to have him in their corner. And It's just such a great show. It's it's an easy watch. I think it's 6 episodes. And it's super camp. It's over the top melodrama. Robin Wright she just devours the scenery as you would expect. She's a great actor. And Olivia Cook, who I really love from House of the Dragon, is fantastic in this as well. It's so much fun. I don't know if any of you have seen it yet, but I really highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. The second one is Black Rabbit. I finally finished that last week. That's the show with Jason Bateman and Jude Law, and that is completely different. 8 episode limited series. It has some elements of Ozark. It has that kind of similar vibe. It's set in the New York restaurant scene, so it's kind of like Ozark meets The Bear. I just thought it was phenomenal. I just cannot. I feel like I'm raving about everything today, like a hyperbolic, crazy person. But it's a really dense, labyrinthine plot. It takes a while to understand what the hell is going on, because they drop you into a particular scene and then they kind of rewind, circle back a bit and work out how we got there. And they only give you little bits and pieces of the story every episode, and every assumption you make is kind of like turned on its head in the next episode. That might sound exhausting, I get it, but if you stick with it and you enjoy the performance by Jason Bateman and Jude Law, blew my mind. And by the ending, I was on the edge of my couch, tears in my eyes. And I thought, this is a really, really interesting, compelling, fantastic work of art that Netflix has given us. And I highly, highly recommend it. All right, that's my spiel. Over to you, Charlie.
So I actually took some time to catch up on some things. One that we talked about early, I think in our first episode, I finally watched The Perfect Neighbor, which was absolutely incredible. It lived up to everything that you guys said. It really is. There's so many emotions that go through watching that. And even as someone who knew what had happened, because I'd seen some of that footage in my TikTok feed over the past couple of months. But it's incredible, and I really hope that this ends up being a front runner for documentary feature. I also finally watched K-pop Demon Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, was that amazing? That was great. That
What a
was
great
just
movie.
great. That was just
Yeah.
great. I love the look of it. I love how it sort of feels like the look of it is like computer animation meets stop motion. I really, really enjoy that because I'm someone who I love stop motion animation. I practically I worship at the altar of the Sledgehammer music video, but I absolutely adored this, and the music is just killer. It's and I'm not someone who really under has understood the explosion that K-pop has had in the mainstream here in America. Um, I think it's interesting, and I have nothing against it. I just don't understand it. Like I don't understand the whole hype behind BTS and everything, and the whole culture
Neither
that
do
that
I.
comes from. It's weird. My Asian friend actually loves it, and also there's an area near me that's very Korean, and that a lot of businesses have their signs in Korean. It's called Annandale, and we have a lot of and also best restaurants are out there. The Korean barbecue restaurants, man, those are so great, and a lot of them will play K-pop music videos in there while you're eating. But yeah, I absolutely adored it, and I think that would be such an amazing winner for animated feature.
I hope so. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'll make this quick. I've just been watching a lot of current fall TV shows, which are all really good. It makes up for all the current movie releases that I've seen that I thought were mid. A lot of them soon to be Oscar contenders. But I saw The Chair Company, and this is my first uh, uh, tease into like Tim Robinson. I haven't seen I Think You Should Leave yet. I'm getting there. Um, it's really good, very well written, perfectly captures the absurdity and the paranoia of conspiracy theories. And in terms of its edginess, their last episode really ended in a very quick sexual position that I didn't think HBO was capable of granting. So
Wow.
that's and I've been starting to watch The Lowdown with Ethan Hawke. He's really good. The show's really good. I only seen the first episode. Looking forward to watching the rest. I think he'll be Golden Globe nominated, probably double for Blue Moon. Um,
Mhm.
and then last one I've seen half an episode of All's Fair, just for shits and giggles. And I usually don't save this kind of language. I only save this kind of language for Sam Levinson shows,
Yeah.
but I think Ryan Murphy is really start. I don't know if because Ryan Murphy has more of a body of work than Sam Levinson, whether that makes him more Sam Levinson than he
Yeah.
is or less. But yeah, I this is the most steaming pile of horse shit that I've ever seen, and that's in a Ryan Murphy show. And I haven't been like that big on Ryan Murphy except for his his Twilight years between 2014 and American Crime Story. Although I thought
The
Pose was
stuff that
really
he's most tangentially involved in.
yeah. I thought Pose was really good. Maybe I'm just talking about his Netflix run. But like, yeah, I didn't know. And coupled with the latest news that Kim Kardashian like failed her California bar exam, I don't know. I don't know if this was her end game in all this when she announced she was like gonna become a lawyer like however many years ago. But I would not be surprised if it was. And I just feel bad for the cast, particularly Glenn Close, because she pretty much plays like a soapier version of her character in Damages. Honestly, that whole show could be just a dream her character in Damages had, where she's in some alternate universe.
That's a
Um,
great hook. I like that.
and yeah, yeah, I'm not watching it again. I just wanted to see how bad it was. That's all.
I mean, it's got such a great cast. I love Sarah Paulson, and I'm like a real Ryan Murphy fan. I love everything he honestly, I would never say a bad word about Ryan Murphy, but I don't know if I'm going to get to this show. If the reviews are bad, people seem to be really not loving it, so I'm not sure if I'll even really get to it at all. So yeah, that's interesting that you say that you have a very strong opinion about that show. What about you, Tony?
I will be even briefer because I really want to get to our final couple of segments because they're very important to me. Um, uh, I also finished Black Rabbit. I'm not as high on it as Rob is, but I think Jason Bateman is astonishing in
Yeah.
it. In this week's episode of Tony's Hallmark Christmas Movie Report, uh, A Keller Family Christmas was an absolute unexpected delight. Not the least of which reason was that it brought together queer Christmas movie star Jonathan Bennett um, and Brandon Routh from the Superman Returns, and especially playing their sister Eden Scher, who was robbed of an Emmy nomination for The Middle.
All those
She was
movies.
hysterical on the Middle, and seeing her on my TV screen again just made me so happy. And so that was kind of a highlight of my weekend. And speaking of steaming piles of Ryan Murphy shit, I watched the Ed Gein miniseries, and uh,
No good.
to call it a steaming pile of shit, I think is an insult to steaming piles of shit. Um,
Wow. Really?
that not a single thing about that show worked, with the exception of Laurie Metcalf, who was only in the first episode as his crazy mother. But the entire show, I made it through 6 out of the 8 episodes, mainly because I just couldn't stop. I was like, what sort of craziness are we going to next? Between the invented plot developments and invented characters that aren't even real characters who serve no purpose whatsoever, to the comically horrific uh, uh, performance of. I love this actor, Tom Hollander. I love Tom Hollander. He plays Alfred Hitchcock. I think he's playing Alfred Hitchcock. I don't know what actually he was going for. Um, there's all these really loose connections to Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which Ed Gein, indirectly kind of inspired. But the series has nothing interesting to say about this person or his influence on the horror culture, other than to just be, you know, how many different ways can we shoot a dark room of skinning human beings? I was profoundly disappointed in it.
Wow. I'm speechless, but I take that on board. We could talk about that all day, but we do need to move on. We have three main topics left. This is for us always the highlight. And the first one is we want to let's revisit the Golden Globes podcast category because I have a question for all of you, but I really do want to hear from Tony especially on this one because I know where he sits on this. And that is the Golden Globes have now announced this podcast category. The last time we talked about it, we quite rightly said, do we really need this category? It doesn't really belong. We don't need it. Let's just focus on the movies and the TV shows. We don't need cinematic achievement and blah, blah, blah. We just relax. However, we have this category. They have decided to include a shortlist and they've cherry picked from various parts of the podcast world, entertainment, interviews, political. Um, and of course, they have tried to be fair by looking across the political spectrum. So I respect all of that. The issue is this. Do we think it is worthwhile potentially rewarding or awarding podcasts that may be quite controversial, depending on your perspective? Because I know a lot of people, for example, who love listening to Joe Rogan's podcast. Now, personally, I think he's one of the most stupid people on the planet. And I'm sorry to say that. I don't like to be rude about people, but I just feel like he says a lot of dumb shit and he asks questions and never really fully interrogates when stupid shit is said on his podcast that millions and millions of people listen to and take on board as gospel, and which then clouds the whole discourse about certain issues of the day. That annoys me. I don't know whether he deserves to really have a Golden Globe in his hands. That's just me. But I have no issue with them doing this. Do whatever you got to do. That'll be the time when I get up to go to the bathroom or make a cup of tea. But it gets even worse than that, guys. And I think this is where Tony maybe might have an issue, and I'll get you to speak to it. But the Megyn Kellys and the Candace Owenses and the people who, in the last couple of days have now started to defend maybe Jeffrey Epstein's not a pedophile. Maybe, because he only likes barely legal and it's all about whether the girl has pubic hair. Like, come on now. That's enough. That's just not acceptable at all.
A certain actor from Marty Supreme is defending those files.
Horrible. Okay. And certain Oscar bloggers who shall remain nameless are unsurprisingly defending what's going on. This is not a political podcast, I get it, but sometimes this stuff seeps into what we talk about because the Golden Globes have introduced this thing. Tony, over to you.
So, in the interest of time, I'll be brief and direct. I have no issue. I do have issues with just this whole podcast category as a given. I just don't like it. I don't think it belongs. I don't think I have different awards for that. It shouldn't be part of the Golden Globes. That being said, there's a difference between honoring and respecting dichotomies in political discourse than awarding people who say things like, who try to change the definition of pedophilia, who try to defend anti-Semitism or defend Nazism or defend the victimization of trans people. I think that some of these things are not like the other. You can respect different viewpoints and not give awards for peddling hate. And my feeling is that there has to be some sort of, we're talking about an awards organization. We're not talking about a government trying to censor free speech. That's a completely different issue. We're talking about whether an awards body should offer a prize. What are you awarding the prize for? Who can come up with the most batshit conspiracy theory or who can say the most offensive thing? I'm sorry, no. All opinions are not created equal. And you can show respect to a variety of viewpoints without rewarding and encouraging actual hate speech. And what we're talking about is, in some cases, actual hate speech. In some cases, we're talking about actively advocating for harm again and discrimination against a particular community, or we're talking about defending or changing the definition of inappropriate behavior with minors. I don't care who the fuck you are.
It's yeah.
Glorifying it as a teacher, it just infuriates me to a level. And so my message is that you know, I really hope the Golden Globes, I hope there's blowback against this. For example, if Megyn Kelly gets a podcast award after what she said yesterday, and if you don't know what she said yesterday, Google it. We don't need to repeat it here, but I hope there is blowback, and I hope that true entertainment organizations and journalists see this for what it is and don't give additional platforms to some of these people.
Here. Any further comments on the podcast category before we move on, guys?
I'm completely on the same page. It would be one thing if this was the best entertainment podcast. That would be one thing, but this is just encompassing everything, which just doesn't make, which makes this just make even less sense.
Yeah.
With everything that has happened politically on both sides of the spectrum, contrasted, and with everything that's probably going to happen in the next couple months, again, on the opposite sides of the spectrum, there's no, this category, I don't think this will last long. Like to give those kinds of platforms, to give even like narrow it down, or like give nominations, or like create a short list, it's just, it's going to generate a lot of unneeded and unnecessary and pointless controversy to an organization that is already built with enough controversy based on its history. So yeah, it's awful.
To use a soccer metaphor, it feels like an own goal to me. I just don't know whether it was necessary. Let's move on to something much happier. So there's this little old show from 40 years ago called The Golden Girls. And I know how special it is to so many people. When I was growing up, my parents used to watch it. It was on Saturday nights, I think. And they used to watch it every week. So I was very little, and I always thought, wow, this seems like a really funny show. Like, everyone's laughing. It brought a lot of people together. It was a huge rating success. It was a cultural phenomenon. And I put it on the other day just because I knew we were going to talk about it. And it really holds up. It's very, very funny because the writing and the performances are next level. And it's so interesting that when I was watching Pluribus the other day, this is not really a spoiler, but it actually comes up. The show comes up in this show. So The Golden Girls is special to a lot of people. And I just really wanted to pay tribute to it. It's 40 years ago that it premiered and changed TV for the better. I'm going to you first, Tony, because I know how much this show means to you personally.
Oh yeah, you see my Golden Girls mug that I drink out of every day. There is a Golden Girls plaque up in the upper corner of my classroom. I know every episode. I know every line of dialogue, and it's really a Rain Man sort of problem that I have. I will just say, and there's a great documentary that's airing on Hulu right now about the Golden Girls. This is a show that was only the second show in history to have all four of its cast win Emmys. It's also inarguable that without the Golden Girls, you would not have Sex in the City. You would not have Girls. You would not have Desperate Housewives. You would not have these shows about women at any age. But especially, nobody was having a show about women over a certain age where they weren't just talking about aches and pains. They weren't just talking about finding husbands. These were women who had careers, who had lives, who had sex, and talked about it openly. This was a show that was LGBTQ friendly before those letters even came into existence in that combination. Betty White tells a story about how during the original run of the show, they would shut the gay bars down at 9 o'clock on Saturday nights to watch Golden Girls and then play the
Really?
music right after the show ended. So it's a show that has changed TV. There's a great book, in my opinion, the comprehensive book about the Golden Girls is a book by Jim Colucci, uh, who wrote a really kind of all-encompassing, the definitive story of the Golden Girls, and I really encourage people to check that out and check out the documentary on Hulu.
I didn't know about the documentary, to be completely honest, so I will definitely be checking that out. That sounds really good. Charles, what do you think about the Golden Girls? Are you a fan?
Of course I am. I mean, how it's one of those shows where, I could just say because I'm gay, how could I not be? But as someone who processes humor, how could I not be? This is a show that I think more than any other, as so many sitcoms age poorly, this one ages like a fine wine. Has aged like a fine wine. It is just it still works. It doesn't feel contrived or forced. The humor feels so natural to it. The rapport between the four actresses is incredible. Each one, and before, people were saying, "Oh, I'm a total Carrie, I'm a total Samantha." It was, "I'm a total Dorothy, I'm a total Sophia." It's priceless on so many levels, and it's if you what you were saying, Tony, we literally probably wouldn't have Desperate Housewives if we didn't have the Golden Girls, because Mark Cherry, the creator of the show, wrote for the Golden Girls. So did Mitchell Hurwitz, who created one of the greatest comedies of all time, Arrested Development. He came from the Gold. He was on the last two seasons, I think, of the Golden Girls as a writer. So I mean,
Okay.
there's so much that this show birthed. It's and the messages of the show in terms of tolerance, acceptance. There's a great episode. There's also, but even there's a great episode where Dorothy is having health issues, and her doctor's not believing her when she's telling him her symptoms, and which is a huge problem, which still is a huge problem in the health community these days. This was something that was, speaking about that issue, 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And it's still it has one of the great theme songs of all time. Who doesn't
Yeah.
who doesn't sing along to that when it comes on? I mean, come on.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. Chris, final word on Golden Girls before we move on. We are definitely running over time today.
So yeah, 80s sitcom, given my generation, 80s sitcom is like the furthest I'll ever go. I have Golden Girls is probably one of the only ones where I probably haven't seen, which I should, because given how much the theme song is stuck in my head and how much I know about the backstage feuds between Betty White and B. Arthur. So I'm just really happy that a show like that could be made in the 80s and influence that many shows centering about complicated women. And I think more shows should be like that. And I'm also, it really is an unprecedented that all four of those ladies won Emmy awards in their in the show's first three seasons, which was probably the quickest like that ever happened. So yeah, I mean, I'm more of a Cheers and a Frank's Place kind of guy, but every time, but I know it's on Hulu or Disney or whatever it's called now. So it's saved on my watch list whenever I
It's
need something.
also on Hallmark about 12 times a day.
Is it? Okay.
It used to
good
be on
know.
Lifetime about 12 times a day.
Yeah. Oh, and
Wow.
also, if you go back and you watch, I think it's from the second or third season, I can't remember, but there is a very young George Clooney as a
Wow.
guest spot. Where he
Also
plays
young
the
Quentin
police
Tarantino.
officer.
There's also young
Yes,
Quentin
there's
Tarantino in that as well.
there's Quentin Tarantino, Burt Reynolds, Bob Hope. I mean, it was such a big show that everybody wanted to be on it.
That's fascinating. And it reminds me, there's a young George Clooney on Roseanne. We will one day talk about Roseanne and what that show means to me. I know it's a bit more problematic these days because of Roseanne Barr, but that's another show that holds up, and I will definitely want to do a tribute to that one day, because to me, that's one of the best comedies ever made. That's a whole other story. I just feel like singing. Thank you for being a friend. Da-na-na-na. Great, great song. Okay, our top fives this week. Movies that you love that are objectively bad. Charlie, I think you should lead this.
Oh well, okay. So this was a tough list for me to come up with. And some of these I'm not even sure if they are objectively bad, but so my first one, this is probably gonna ruffle some feathers, but um a movie I enjoyed that I think is lacking in structure is the documentary Bowling for Columbine, Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. I think it's an interesting documentary. It has a lot of interesting ideas, but there's hardly any through line for it. It addresses a lot of things, but it just feels like it's kind of all over the place. And even with whatever documentary, I always feel like a documentary needs to have a thesis statement, and Bowling for Columbine lacks a thesis statement. And especially when you compare it to Michael Moore's other movies, I think that are much better and actually have a thesis statement, like Roger and Me, like Sicko, which I think is his masterpiece. Um, it just I still enjoy it, and it has a lot of interesting things to say. I just don't think it really structures it very well.
Okay. Chris, number five.
Okay, this was also hard for me. Had it been reversed, I would have come up with this very easily. Like this year alone, I could have like done. could
Yeah,
have done.
maybe next time.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
But my number five is a movie called Black Hat by Michael Mann. I'm very touch and go with Michael Mann films. I haven't seen a lot of his classics like The Insider. This one definitely does have pacing issues. Chris Hemsworth is very miscast as as a as a hacker, but there's good chemistry. There's a lot of action, a lot of great actors in this. Gets very intense when it's supposed to be. And it's sort of something I'll put on the background for an action movie. And it's like very like distinctly uniquely shot. Some of them it does, some of them don't work, but I appreciate the effort.
Okay, Tony, number five.
My number five is a film that maybe you guys have never heard of, but again, I'm old, so I'm going back to 1986 for a film that was actually a box office hit called Short Circuit. This is a film starring Ali Sheedy, Steve Guttenberg, and Fisher Stevens about a robot that achieves sentience named Number Five, who takes the name Johnny Five. This film is so 80s with the bad synthesized score and a comically over the top, horrible, racist performance by Fisher Stevens as an Indian scientist with a really bad Indian accent. That as a child, I absolutely was. I watched this. I would put this in the VCR. Look it up, young people, and watched it over and over and over again. And at some point, probably around the time I was 14, I put it on one day and I go, wow, this is shit. And I don't care. I have such fond memories of it.
Wow. Okay, my number five is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective because it is so ridiculous. It is over the top. It is problematic in the way that it really demonizes maybe a trans character, which is just wouldn't fly these days. It's of its time. It's kind of dumb, but when I was a kid, mate, nothing made me laugh more than Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. So that's on my list. All right, let's move a bit faster. Your number four, Charles.
My number four is a sequel called Blues Brothers 2000. That movie it is not good, but the music, it's one of those where the music is great, and you just there's this great moment towards the end where there's this giant jam band of all these incredible musicians: Eric Clapton, Isaac Hayes, BB King. They're all doing, and they're just jamming, and it's just it's so fucking good. But the movie is shit. The movie is shit.
It's just dog shit. Chris.
Yeah, I couldn't do this list without a sequel too, because most sequels are bad. Mine is very cheesy. Rush Hour 3. It's not good. The action is whatever. Roman Polanski is also in it, but there are some. I still enjoy the chemistry, the comedic chemistry that is Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. He always stunts are great, still funny. A lot of the way it ends is very weird, but it's just a fun movie to sit through, and it's not as good as the other two. Rush Hour 2 is not even that good, but it's entertaining. It does the job.
Tony, number 4.
I also have a sequel. It's oftentimes very in vogue to hate Batman and Robin, the fourth Batman movie with George Clooney, but I actually think a movie that is worse that I still love is Batman Forever. I think that movie is absolutely just terrible. Whether it's Tommy Lee Jones made up to look like an eggplant, and doing a strange cackling Joker laugh for reasons that make zero sense to me. What are Drew Barrymore and Debbie Mazar doing in that movie? The nipples on the bat suit, the close-ups of the bat ass, Val Kilmer trying to act like he's in an Oscar-winning film, and it was the beginning of the end for that version of Batman, especially when you had just before it Batman Returns, which I think is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't like it.
That was a major movie in my gay awakening because of Chris O'Donnell in that movie. And I will tell you, I will never forget the scene where he sees his parents die and he's watching from. I'm like, is it just me or is he hot when he's grieving or something like that? You know, it was a very confusing time for me.
The insight into Charles Bright's mind. My number 4 is The Mummy, or even The Mummy Returns. You can take one or the other. Ridiculous, over the top, plot holes galore, dumb, but God, so much fun. So much fun. Oded Bear is so good in that movie. He devours the scenery, every pyramid. But yeah, objectively bad movie. And by the way, if you ever go to, I think it's Universal Studios in LA, you must go on the Mummy ride. That is killer. That's my number 4. All right, Charles, you're number 3.
I just got to second The Mummy, and I felt so bad for Rachel Weisz when she won her Oscar. When the announcer, I don't know if you remember, said Rachel Weisz has previously been seen in The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, and I'm just like, oh, I felt so bad for her. Even though I love The Mummy, it's hilarious, and this peak Brendan Fraser. My number 3 is another one that might ruffle some feathers. I think it's just it's just a movie that it has a cultural significance to it, and it's Pink Flamingos. John Waters is one of the great is a great filmmaker, and I think he's a great filmmaker, for that, a defining filmmaker for that era of auteurs that we got from the 70s, that you didn't have to go to film school. These are people that got cameras as shot movies in their backyard. I think of like, John Waters, the Coens, David Lynch in that category. And it is not a very good movie, but God damn it, Divine is just otherworldly, especially when she has that big part where she goes, kill everyone now, condone cannibalism, advocate first-degree murder, do not forget, I am divine. It's just like that's iconic shit. Not to mention the shit that she eats later at the end of the movie.
Gold. Okay, Chris, number 4. 3, sorry.
Number 3, I got Revolutionary Road. I like the Richard Yates. I really like the Richard Yates book, and this movie is actually pretty faithful to this book. Perhaps maybe too faithful, but it has some great performances. Has really great scenes in it. Michael Shannon, he's always the standout, and he has a history of getting Oscar nominations when he doesn't get in anywhere else. And yeah, I think it's a really nice couple drama, that devolves into madness. And my hot take is I would watch this over Titanic, another Leo and Kate movie. So
Go. Tony, you're number 3.
Anaconda.
Yes.
I that movie is I mean, come on, J-Lo, Ice Cube, who doesn't want to see John Voight get devoured by a 30-foot snake and then
Yes,
get
please.
regurgitated? I'm
Yes.
so dying to see this. A film that is such a cult favorite that they're making a new version of it where it's kind of like a joke within a joke. It's like a totally meta version in it that I can't wait to see.
That sounds very cool. My number 3 is Superman 2, so that's my sequel. General Zod is just a revelation to me. I love those 3 villains. They're most ridiculous. They end up in a little mirror that flies off into space. It's just so dumb and so kitschy and cringy and of its time. And to me, it's the best Superman movie ever made. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Charles, you're number 2.
So my number 2 is a musical. The songs, a lot of the songs are bangers, but the story around it is not very good. You might think I'm going to say The Greatest Showman, but that would
Rock of
require me to
Ages.
enjoy it. I would have to enjoy it, so that's automatically out of it. It's actually the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Wow.
Oh,
It
That's
is
shocking.
not a very
So
good
good.
movie. I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah, it's not.
I mean, the performances. Tim Curry is iconic in it as Frankenfurter. He's giving an excellent performance in that. Um, but a lot of the story elements are just not there, and it is very 70s. And but dear God, the songs are great. Songs are great. I mean,
They-
The Sweet Transvestite, Time Warp, Damn It, Janet. And it just also just the way it's taken a life of its own with the midnight screenings and the dialogue that you engage in back and forth. It is incredible, and that was definitely you know a huge unifying movie for me and my friends in high school. It's not very good though. Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, we are really running out of time, Chris. You're number 2.
Love and Other Drugs. So quick backstory. 2010 was the first year I really got into the Oscars. It's probably the only year in that expanded Best Picture era where I don't dislike any of the 10 nominees. Whereas this year I dislike at least half of them. But yeah, let's just say I was at an impressionable age. I haven't seen much nudity in anything except for a few Sopranos scenes. And James Gandolfini is a great actor, but he's physically he's no Jake Gyllenhaal or Anne Hathaway. So yeah, the story is cheesy as any rom-com could be. But they were Golden Globe nominated, so who knows? And Ed Zwick, really, really off-brand for Ed Zwick as a director. So
There you go. Number 2, Tony.
by the way, I know some bears that would really disagree with your James Gandolfini assessment. But in the 80s, there was a very famous cartoon, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It was my favorite cartoon growing up. I had all the toys. I still have all the action figures and Castle Grayskull up in my attic. Made a really terrible film version in 1987 when I was 9 years old, starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man and Frank Langella as Skeletor. The only good performance in that movie is Frank Langella as Skeletor, and he is iconic. The film is an absolute dumpster fire of a hot mess, but 9-year-old me loved it in ways that I cannot tell you. And I still watch it as a 47-year-old man occasionally go, yes, this is shit. But look, it's Courtney Cox in her first movie role. It's
Wow.
it's Frank Langella eating up the scenery. They are doing a remake coming, I think, in 2027. But yes, if you ever get a chance, watch it. You will not be sorry.
My number 2 is Enemy Mine. That's my childhood. That's my favorite sci-fi film of my childhood. It's probably why I love Predator Badlands so much. It stars Dennis Quaid as the human being who crash lands on this planet, and Louis Gossett Jr., who plays Jereber Shigan, the alien. It's a buddy drama. It's emotional. I used to cry over it. I just love it. But not a very good movie. It's Wolfgang Peterson. It's terrible. The makeup's terrible. The music's terrible. It's very, very dated, and but I just love it. All right, we have 2 minutes, so let's go on to our number ones. Charles.
I don't know if this is actually a bad movie. I actually kind of think it is a good movie, but a lot of people would probably dismiss it as a bad movie. It's a Saturday Night Live movie. It is Stuart Saves His Family with the Al Franken character, Stuart Smalley. Remember, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And it's about him having to deal with his dysfunctional family, which we always heard about on the show, but it actually works. You have the family, his mother played by Shirley Knight, his father's played by Harris Yulin, who just passed away a couple months ago. His brother's played by Vincent D'Onofrio. Laura San Giacomo's in this also. And it actually works, as I think, as a moving family drama. And Franken wrote the screenplay to it. It's directed by Harold Ramis. Franken wrote the screenplay, and he took quite a bit of the stuff about alcoholism because his wife, Franny, had actually struggled with alcoholism. And it's one that I think it just works. I think it's one that always remembers to be funny, even during the more emotional parts. It does get very emotional. I actually think it's a great movie. I have a VHS copy that the VHS is broken, but I kept the case because it is signed by now former Senator Al Franken.
Wow, good one. Chris, you're number one.
Okay, this is a very obscure movie, but it's Akira Kurosawa. It's his second to last movie called Rhapsody in August, which is not accessible anywhere because of its subject matter, which is critical of the Americans dropping the bomb in Nagasaki in 1945, understandably. But outside of that, it's a very touching family drama. And very quick, it has Richard Gere in it for 20 minutes, where he plays a half Japanese nephew of the Japanese cast. And Richard Gere is not half Japanese in the slightest. In fact, according to his Wikipedia page, his parents are Mayflower descendants and have ancestors that are pilgrims. So he's like whiter than my Honda CRV. But yeah, but it's a very touching family drama about aging, and it's kind of a drag. Some things drag along the way, but it gets very touching about like the history of like perspectives and how like people in countries view war. So yeah.
Nice. Tony, you're number one.
My number one is a truly awful film that I adore called Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, starring Kevin Costner as Robin Hood. And nobody in that movie is doing the same accent. In fact, Kevin Costner is not doing the same accent between one scene and the next. It is a god-awful film that I watch every time it's on television for one reason and one reason alone. One, I like to track Kevin Costner's accent. Number two, Alan freaking Rickman, who actually won a BAFTA for this. He won a BAFTA for this performance as the Sheriff of Nottingham. Yes, it is a fucking hot mess, as many things with Kevin Costner are, and yeah, it's. I still love it to this day.
My number one is Clue. Speaking of Tim Curry earlier, that is a ridiculous, badly made, but so beautifully, like, it's so funny, and you can see they're having an absolute ball, and the different endings, the cast. I think I've seen that movie 50 times. I would love for them to remake it. The flames on the side of my face. Like, I want them to remake it, but I just love that movie. But it is objectively a bad movie, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of loving it. We've run out of time, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, fellas, once again. We'll see you all next week for more from the Awards Heaven podcast. Have a great week, everybody.